This is Rogers TV. The opinions expressed in the following programs are those of the participants and do not necessarily reflect those of Rogers nor Rogers TV.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to Talk Politics. This week, my guest is one of the newly elected MPPs for Durham Region. She is Ajax MPP Patrice Barnes. First time on the show. Patrice, welcome, and we are so excited to have you here as our guest.
Thank you. Thank you so much. I'm excited to be here.
Congratulations on your win. This was one of those back and forth battles, all night. What was going through, your head, and talk to us just about the seesaw of emotions you must have been going through.
It was quite an emotional night. Actually, it was quite an emotional campaign. All through the campaign, it was a back and forth. If you were watching the polls, so at some point I stopped watching the polls because it was too much of an emotional roller coaster. But the night itself is exciting. You are excited, you're anxious, you got your fingers crossed, you prepare for both scenarios. So it was quite an emotional, a fun night too, because depending on the people around you, you share some really good laughs and you share some really bonding moments. So it was really a great night.
You said you stopped looking at the polls because it was, you were up, you were down, you were up, you were down. Did you expect it to be as close as it was?
Yes, because all through the campaign, it was like that. It was, the numbers were always close together. And so we anticipated being a battle. And so we doubled down for it. We wanted to be the choice that Ajaxian chose, and so we kept at it all right up until the election.
What do you think it was about Patrice Barnes and the Patrice Barnes campaign that put you over the top, that convinced your constituents to put that X beside your name?
Well, I think I've been in the community for a long time. I've served as trustee for 8 years. I've sat on the Durham Regional Police Board. So when I got the opportunity to speak to people at the door, that resonated. That resonated of being an advocate for Ajaxians for that period of time. But also, I think the party also had a pretty solid platform that people bought into and believed in, rebuilding the economy, staying open, getting jobs back. So I think that combination was very good.
So you mentioned, of course, you had been a DDSB trustee for 8 years prior to this. What made you decide to run provincially?
The opportunity came up and it was exciting. It was an exciting opportunity. I think it was an exciting time. We were coming out of COVID. We had the plans to open and to build the economy, to invest in trades, to build infrastructure resonated with me as well. And so when the opportunity presented itself, I spoke to my family. I thought about it long and hard, and then I decided to do it.
Was it a hard decision to make, to jump from going from the DDSB as a trustee?
Yes, it was.
The possibility of, becoming the provincial representative?
It was a hard, because you're moving into a different level of government. I mean, you're way more public. Politics is, so polarizing these days. You have some incidents that happen that are concerning. I'm also very concerned more around my children and my family. And so that was a hard decision. But also being able to make change at a provincial level was also appealing. But it was hard as well, because I will really miss being able to have those conversations that we had at the DDSB that were changing and being impactful for students' lives and for families. Even at the Durham Regional Police Board as well, those it's been 8 years and 3 years. So, you develop relationships that you definitely miss.
Well, let's talk about your time at the DDSB and at the police board. First, let's start with the DDSB. What made you decide to get involved in local politics to begin with?
Well, I didn't think about it as being involved in politics. I had a problem and I couldn't get it solved in regards to my children. And so I decided to run. And I ran because I wanted to make a change. And I actually ran because I thought, if I have a problem that I can't get an answer for, there's probably other parents that did the same. And so I wanted to change that. And that's why I ran.
Tell us about your time in the DDSB and, what you are most proud of and the change that you affected during that time.
Well, I'm particularly proud about the conversations around Black student success, changing some of the things that impact their ability to achieve and to be successful, not just in school, but after, because the impacts of school is really lifelong for students of color, as well as students in poverty. And so the conversations around really expecting students to do well and creating the environment for them to do well. Because when you have a child that lives in poverty, that does well in school and move on to post-secondary or even to the workforce, it's the ability to really impact real change in their lives. So those are being involved in those and being able to have those conversations are really important to me.
What made you decide to join the police board, the DRPS police board?
Well, I wanted to be an officer at one point, so I figured.
Did you really?
No, a long time ago. So so I figured it would be a good way to be one. I got a badge, and but it was also the ability to really impact change. We were having great conversations around policing and how it needs to change and how it needs to change to be sustainable. Policing has, it's a paramilitary organization, so it's very steeped in tradition and hierarchy, and so it was very interesting to be part of that.
What change did you see on the board or on DRPS during your time on the board that you thought was the most impactful?
We had a conversation after George Floyd. We had conversations around how policing can be more responsive to the community that it serves, what community policing looks like, having the ability to have the community come in and actually have conversations about how they're impacted and what can be changed. So the board did put together their strategic plan. They rolled out a diversity plan. They talked about how to do hiring of more diverse officers and to get those officers in the ranks. And then when they're there, how to support them as well.
Yeah, people talk a lot about that, but as we hear, talk is cheap. Did you see great strides and movement toward that? Like, were they putting in?
Sorry, I cut you off.
Were those changes coming into effect, or or is DRPS just still talking about it?
I think there's both. There's still conversations going on because I think there will always be conversation if you want to change. It can't be a one and done. So there's been change. They have an advisory group that they've put in place made up of community members. They have a youth advisory group that they've also put in place. They've expanded their youth and policing programming to attract more diverse students so they can be part of that, so that, you have that police community connection with students from earlier than before they come in contact with policing in a negative format. They've also rolled out to be part of promotion and hiring. They have trained a couple of the community members that will sit in on the beginning of the hiring process, which I think will also have impact.
Okay, so we know that Patrice Barnes was a DDSB trustee for 8 years. You sat on the police board for 3. You are now the MPP for Ajax. We know at one time you wanted to be a police officer. What else should we know or that we don't know about Patrice Barnes? You came to Canada as a teen, 18, correct?
Yeah. Yes.
From Jamaica.
18, yes. I came from Jamaica to Canada at 18. I came to go to university. It didn't work out in that straight line. I did end up there eventually, but it's the life of an immigrant is never always how it's worked out or planned out to be. So it's been a really good journey for me.
When did you move then to the Durham region, or did you, when you came to school, were you in the Durham region?
No, when I first moved to Canada, I lived at Jane and Finch, actually. I moved to Durham. Yes, I moved to Durham 2003 was when I moved to Ajax. It's quite a lot of change that's happened since I've moved to Durham, for sure.
What's the biggest change you've seen in Ajax? How has Ajax grown since that time and changed?
When I moved here, there were still cornfields on Harwood.
Yes.
Now all you see is traffic. So
yeah,
there's definitely been a lot of change since then. Yeah.
Okay, I'm going to stop you there. We're going to take a quick break. We are in conversation with Ajax MPP Patrice Barnes. Stay with us. More to come on Talk Politics.
This program is brought to you by Ignite TV. Now you're in command. Visit Rogers.com for more details.
Did you have fun? Check this out. It's nice, right?
Wednesdays at 7:30 p.m., it's the RTV quiz. Giovanni Petiti hosts a weekly trivia competition that lets you play from the comfort of your couch. Play along at home and challenge your friends. And don't forget to follow along on social media. Let us know who's top of trivia, and you can find yourself featured on a future episode.
Are you kidding me, folks?
The RTV quiz, Wednesday nights at 7:30 p.m. on Rogers TV or at rogerstv.com/RTV quiz.
Hi, I'm Jackie Hermans, the host of Uxbridge Scugog Live, where we talk about everything going on in your community, from events to programs, new products, new businesses. If something is going down in the community, we're going to let you know about it, only on Rogers TV.
I'm Eric Marchinosa's Cinema Scene in Review. Join me for a monthly movie roundup of new releases either in theaters or available to stream. See you next time in Review.
And welcome back to Talk Politics. When the provincial legislature reconvenes, one of the new faces on the floor this time around is my guest this week. It is Ajax MPP Patrice Barnes. Welcome back. to the show. I want to ask you a bit about voter turnout in this last election. It was at its lowest in history at 43%. What do you think was behind that?
Well, I think you have a higher turnout of voters oftentimes when people want to change, like we saw probably in the previous election when we had the Liberals voted out and the PCs voted in. So I think the province was doing a good job, and I don't think residents really were looking for a big change. So I don't. A lot of the doors I knocked, people were, the premier will get back in anyways, so I don't need to vote. So it was really conversations about going, yes, this race is tight and you need to go out and vote. So that influenced the voter turnout, I think.
Yeah. As a trustee in municipal elections, we're all used to that kind of low voter turnout. Does it concern you at all? You know, whether it's the municipal level, the provincial level, the federal level, whether people want change or not, should they not be getting out there and exercising that right?
Yeah, I believe really strongly in people going out and voting, no matter which party it is that they vote for. I think all over the world, you see so many countries that don't have that don't have the democratic right to vote. Like we look at even on the TV right now with the Ukraine that is fighting for their independence and their freedom to be able to choose who leads them. And so I do, it does bother me when I meet somebody that says they don't vote, because it is such an important right. It is so fundamental to being a citizen, to choose your government.
What do you think can be done perhaps to, encourage more participation in any election? I mean, we have a municipal election coming up. Is it Australia that has mandatory voting? Is that an idea whose time has come, or is that going a little too far?
That's a tricky one, because even with the municipal elections that's coming up, it is so easy because you can vote online. You were able to vote online the last time, and still, it's really an engagement as well, getting people to be engaged. I mean, if there's a scandal going on, everybody's watching, but it's a lot of Canadians, and they know more about the US politics than they do about Canadian politics. So we are failing somewhere in that regards to getting people invested in their leadership and being invested in who they vote in to govern the country.
You mentioned, talking to people at the door. So I want to ask you about those conversations that you were having at the door with voters. What was their number one concern?
A lot of people were concerned about the pandemic, about lockdowns, and it's polarizing, right? Some people were for lockdowns, some people were not, but a lot of people were lockdown weary. They were tired of not being able to see family. They were tired of just the missing of normalcy and isolation. So many of our seniors were isolated, so many families that were isolated. So those were the pandemic was top of mind and lockdown. Affordability was another one that was very popular at the doors as well. And our seniors, talking to our seniors, they're concerned. They were concerned about long-term care. A lot more seniors are talking about home care, being able to stay home longer. So those are really issues that were top of mind, but affordability and the pandemic were the top two.
What's on Patrice's to-do list for the next 4 years? What would you like to see accomplished? Sorry, I interrupted you. Go ahead.
No, I interrupted you. For me, I would, housing is a big one for me. I remember knocking the door of a home and the person that answered had been on the waiting list for housing for 5 years. And I thought, wow, so much happens within 5 years. So much things could change, and how a person's life is impacted by just having home security. So housing is big on mind. We've seen a rise in homelessness, not just in Ajax, but provincially. So that would be an issue that would be top of mind for me. And a lot of parents as well, their affordability for their trying to get their 30 and 40-year-olds out of their basement is another piece, right? So I think those are going to be really things that need to be done. But I think with the building of infrastructure and expanding and investments, I really think we can start having conversations and actions, not just conversations, because the PC government is really about getting things done and getting it done in a timely manner that it affects people's lives. So looking forward to that.
You mentioned a lot of seniors were concerned. Long-term care during the pandemic was one of the worst tragedies that we talked about, witnessed, and many people had to endure the loss of life and the loss to families, just absolutely heartbreaking. What would you like to see your government move forward with in that respect? Well,
The long-term care was, it came to head during the pandemic, but it's been from years of neglect, of lack of investments, the not building of beds. There were 40,000 people on a waiting list for long-term care from the previous government, when the PC government came into power. So I'm happy that, we've really started building for long-term care. Peter Bethlenfalvy, the finance minister in Pickering, was very strategic in putting funding into long-term care, and we've built beds in Ajax. We have done renovations, even just in Ajax, but not just Ajax, but Durham in general. So I think we need to continue with those investments, and I do think the Premier has committed to building long-term care beds and providing better care for seniors.
And of course, you mentioned one of the most expensive trips you're ever going to take these days is to the gas station. Filling up a tank of gas, there's no such thing as a $50 tank of gas anymore. It's double that, triple that for many people. What is the government going to do? What can the provincial government do to make that a little more affordable at the pump?
Yeah, Ajax is a commuter town, and so for sure that does affect families in our area. And they started in July 1st. The government has committed to doing a reduction in the gas tax of 5.7%, 5.7 cents, not percent. So I think that will help families a little. And so I think this over the summer, the commitment is for over the summer, where families spend a lot of time this summer. You want to get out, you want to drive, you want to go places. I think it will contribute and help to the average commuter.
And of course, I want to ask you about setting up your office. This is, as you mentioned, exciting times for you. So much to do. The election night was just the beginning of a very, very busy summer for Patrice Barnes. How exciting is it for you, and how overwhelming is it for a newbie? You're not a newbie politician, but a newbie to provincial politics. Just to take care of everything that has to be taken care of, new office, staff, getting acclimatized to the way things are done at the provincial level. I mean, we are taping this June 22nd, June 24th. The Premier will announce his cabinet. Just talk to me about how busy you've been setting up shop.
Well, it has been exciting and overwhelming. I mean, there is a big learning curve. Being a trustee is a lot different from being MPP. But I am excited about that. I am looking for a constituency office. I'm trying to find something as central as possible. It's a little challenging in Ajax because we don't have a lot of office buildings per se. So we're looking into where we can find a location that will work and hopefully central. If not, we'll set up where we can afford to set up and where we can find space. But it is exciting. It's like, you're setting a new office, you're getting a chance to put it together because once the writ is called, everything gets pulled down. So it is an exciting process, and looking for staff as well, and setting up your office, and then sort of setting the deliverables and setting out your expectation for what you believe represents you and what you want the people of Ajax to be represented with a strong voice at Queen's Park, but to also do customer service, right? It's the most important piece is being connected to community.
We only have about a minute left, but I want to ask you, what do you think you're going to be feeling the first time you sit in Patrice Barnes' seat in the legislature? Are you going to be looking around saying, pinch me, I can't believe I'm here?
I can tell you already because I've been in. I don't have my particular seat that I will be holding, but I was so overwhelmed walking into just Queen's Park, the history of the building, the architecture, the setup, knowing the job that's done there, being one of I think 2,000 Ontarians have served in Parliament, and walking into that chamber and taking a seat, I had to stop. I had to take a breath. It was I will remember that one first time feeling forever, I believe.
Patrice, believe it or not, we are out of time. Thank you so much for taking the time to speak with us.
Thank you. It was definitely my pleasure.
Our guest this week has been newly elected MPP for Ajax, Patrice Barnes. On behalf of all of us here at Rogers TV, thanks for joining us.
Call the Rogers TV viewer response line, email us, or connect with us on social media.
My name is Matthew Rutledge. I'm a 60 scoop survivor, born in Red Lake. Was adopted from there to Toronto at the age of 4. A lot of our brothers and sisters, family members got separated from each other. That was the government's goal, to break that connection from brothers and sisters. Basically taking the Indian out of the child. Right now, they're still trying to find themselves. Originally, my birth name is Harvey Halverson. In my high school days, teens, I was trying to fit into society. I knew I was First Nations, but I didn't know who I was inside. I think later in life, I started that journey. I am proud, Nishnawbe man, who I am now. I love life, who I am.
Sometimes it's hard to say goodbye to an old friend. But when you're saying farewell to your vehicle, Kidney Car makes it fast and easy. Just